Welcome back to the Hack Lab. Today I'm happy to share some exciting new capabilities available in the C64ML engine. If you haven't watched it yet, check out my previous video where we introduced the C64ML markup language and showed demos running on the Sysop-64 cartridge. In this video, I'll demonstrate how C64ML simplifies advanced Commodore 64 programming techniques through an easy-to-use markup language.
Run for your life. Fight for your life. Blood more sharp. Blood more sharp. Coming for you.
Alright, let's dive in. So what's changed in C64ML since my last video? Quite a lot. To start with, it's now a lot easier to link together multiple C64ML pages to make multi-part demos or games. Pages can have settings that control how they exit, their duration, and where to go next on exit. This can be done from markup as well as from JavaScript. You can also have SID tunes play across multiple C64ML pages without interruption. Here, I'm showing the first 4 scenes of this multi-part demo. And that first part was an example of playing a digi sound sample. Alright, you get the idea. Speaking of SID tunes, we now have a bunch of support for playlists and SID player control. And to test that out, I made a pretty decent player for the high voltage SID music collection. The player app is a mix of markup, but it is mostly JavaScript. It supports navigation with the keyboard, joystick, and the mouse using the engine's mouse support. It also gives you the ability to do text search to match songs by name or path. There's a visualizer so you can watch the shape of the SID voice waveforms as the song is played. Here we're playing Rob Hubbard's classic Skate or Die intro tune, and for this one I of course had to equip the player with an option for that super cool digi border effect. The bitmap loader also now supports koala.kla files, and there's an easy to use FLD tag in markup to help you use the classic flexible line distance technique for scrolling images. And yeah, this friendly looking guy, that's some AI image generator's idea of what a Bloodmosher character might look like. I'm not so sure about that. Anyway, it was converted to koala format here using the amazing ArcPaint 64 application. Alright, next up, let's talk about bitmap animation. Let's say you code up some whiz-bang effect like this dual checkerboard animation with a scroller in the middle. The JavaScript engine could be running on something like the DE10 Nano, but the engine was meant to be portable to other systems as well. To ensure consistent playback on any device, the engine lets you record all the frames and then bundle them up in a compressed archive for playback. This also leaves you more CPU available to do other stuff in your game or demo. The engine also makes it easy to split your screen so you can put text areas in the middle of a bitmap, and it will handle all the register write timing for you behind the scenes. You can easily make use of bitmaps that are larger than the screen. In this example, we're loading the assembly format output from ArcPaint 64, plus some simple JavaScript to scroll the image around. Of course, in many cases, it's much more efficient to use tile maps instead. Here's an example that uses the tile bitmap element with files containing the tiles and the map data. I'm sure many of you recognize this Alien Breed level, a game that never made it to the C64. Well, maybe someday. Here's another one that uses two tile bitmap viewports that could be used for a two-player split-screen game. Each half of the screen has its own vertical scroll setting, and we use the common trick of putting a row of sprites in the center of the screen to hide the visual artifacts that effect creates. That trick of using covering sprites is actually not ideal, as it limits what you can do with sprites in your scene. A better option shown here is to make use of the VIC chip's invalid bitmap mode to force blanking in that middle area, and then it gets a little easier to deal with sprites. To make this easy to use, we introduce a new element called blank band that manages the hard parts of this in the engine. It's fun to think about what new two-player simultaneous play games you could make with this. Here's another example I've been playing with, a two-player space combat game inspired by Turbo Racchetti on the Amiga. I call it Space Off, and, well, it's a work in progress. By default, C64ML has network access disabled, but there's an option to allow it. In this example, we're connecting to a server using WebSockets, and we're updating rasters based on the messages received. This could come in handy for things like multiplayer games. In this one, we're demonstrating the use of the Fetch API. This kind of thing could be used for a C64ML BBS, just as one possibility. As you can see here, I'm starting up with the allow network argument. Isn't that fascinating? I did not know that. As you can imagine, allowing networks safely is a big topic, so we'll talk more about that in another video. C64ML is coming along nicely. I'm working my way through all the key demo effects and building in more features to make it easier to bring your ideas to life. Sysop-64 alpha testers can play with this today. Thanks to all of you for your feedback. Oh, and one more thing. It's not quite ready yet, but soon you'll be able to try out C64ML in the Vice emulator as well. Don't forget, please like and subscribe to show your support for this project. See you next time.